Perk, and
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, Merry Christmas. Perk, and I know you guys probably were doling out a ton of gifts this morning. Perk, I'll start with you. How was your Christmas?
It was great. I mean, I woke up, I did Sports Center, I did the Get Up, I did First Take, and now I'm doing hoop strings. I got my kids open their presents. They got the PS5 and a whole lot of toys. It was awesome. And I got a few gifts, but it's all good as long as the kids was happy.
Absolutely. And we're counting down to the start of the Mavs versus the Lakers. Both teams dropped their season openers. Now, Perk, were you encouraged or discouraged by those results?
I was encouraged. Look, as far as the Lakers, the only thing they were worried about was getting their rings. I'm not worried about the Lakers at all. I feel like they're the best team in the Western Conference. The Mavs, on the other hand, I feel like, they're finding their groove. Guys are getting implemented into Rick Carlisle's system. Guys like, Josh Richardson, Brunson, who's just coming back, who's been off. And, Luka is working his way back up. I feel like he could get in better shape because they're going to rely on him a lot. Powell coming off an injury. So the Mavs will be just fine. I think the Lakers will be fine also. Both of those teams are going to do well in the Western Conference.
All right, well, one of the things the Lakers want to do is win another championship. They did a lot of things in the offseason to try to make that happen again this season. I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think about the Lakers' offseason moves?
I thought they had the best offseason of any team in the league. No disrespect to, the things that Milwaukee did and some of the other teams, but when you talk about a championship team getting better in the offseason, that almost never happens. Perk, you know how it is. You're just trying to keep everything together, keep the band back together. The Lakers went out there and they upgraded their supporting cast, and it starts with Marc Gasol. I think he's going to open up a lot of things for them on both ends of the floor, offensively as a passer and as a low-post threat, something that they haven't had. And then defensively as another backline of defense so that AD doesn't have to be a 5 for them. And then you talk about Wes Matthews and Dennis Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell. The Lakers all season, I mean, again, it is so rare for a championship team to add 4 bona fide upgrades in their supporting cast.
Now, we're only one game into the season, and Luka is already the current favorite for MVP. Now, Perk, what are you expecting from Luka for year 3?
Well, I expect him to go out there and average 30, get his 9 assists and his 9 rebounds, but Luka has to up his three-point percentage. I think he has to get in better shape. He has the whack body. And if you don't know what the whack body is, that's a guy like myself who try to work his tail off to get a six-pack but could never get over the hump, right? Luka would never probably get chiseled up, but he still could work on his body because he's gonna have to carry this team, especially while that is to be in the best shape possible. So I'm looking at Luka. I expect great things from him. I don't have him picked as my MVP. I have Anthony Davis as that, but he's going to do great and still carry the Mavs.
Well, one thing that would certainly help Luka is if the Mavs played really well, especially in the Western Conference. Obviously, KP is out right now, but I'll ask you this question. What else do the Mavs need in order to compete?
Well, I think they've got a couple of guys who are coming back after long layoffs. You got Dwight Powell, who Perk mentioned. He was such a big part of their offense last year before he got hurt. He's coming back now, but obviously he's rusty. And then Willie Cauley-Stein, who sat out of the bubble, I believe, for personal reasons. He's another guy who gives them a vertical spacer. These guys just need to get reps under their belt because you think about it, for Willie Cauley-Stein, he hasn't played since March. For Powell, it's been even longer than that since he got hurt. And then obviously Josh Richardson was a big offseason acquisition for them. He's not quite the shooter that Seth Curry was, but he could put the ball on the floor a little bit more. And then he's obviously a huge upgrade on the defensive end. So just trying to get these guys back in the swing of things and fitting in, I think is going to be huge as a gap until Porzingis comes back next month or so.
Speaking of things getting back in the swing of things, we got a full slate of games on Wednesday. So let's check out today's surprisingly great performance brought to you by State Farm. We got the preseason, and we got 2-3 days of games so far. So throughout the preseason and the opening days of games, I'll start with you, because I think we may have lost Perk. Who has stood out to you?
Well, to me, obviously, I want to start with today. Duncan Robinson, who had his struggles during the playoffs, but today he just came up and he lit up like a torch, making the shots that we expect him to make as an elite shooter and being really a focal point on the offensive end. And I know that sounds weird because he barely dribbles the ball, but you watch him move, and even as we watch these highlights, look at all the attention he draws and how many times defenders get confused. Is that my man? Is that your man? Too late. The shot's already up. So Duncan Robinson obviously off to a great start.
Yeah, Duncan's certainly a bucket. Perk, who has impressed you the most through these first few games?
Well, I'm going to stay with the Miami Heat, but I'm going to go with Bam. Bam Adebayo, I thought, did a wonderful job today for us. When Jimmy Butler went out, he keeps getting better, and he impresses me every single game. His playmaking ability is underrated. He's right there under Jokic as far as the bigs, best passing bigs and creating for others. The way that he brings that defensive intensity for the Miami Heat and anchors that defense, one of the few bigs in the league, probably besides Anthony Davis, that could switch one.
All right, I think we might have lost Perk there. He's kind of frozen on a perfect picture.
Yeah. Screenshot it.
We're live, folks.
Screenshot that meme and do whatever you got to do. I mean, you'll be back at the end of the show. Perk, if you can hear me, you'll be back at the end of the show, too. You're watching Hoop Streams presented by State Farm. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the ESPN app. We're getting you ready for Lakers versus Mavs at 8 p.m. That's the guy. Oh, just kidding. We are now joined by NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Jeez Louise, I knew I was going to. I haven't said your name fully yet, so that's the first time. I feel like this is a good thing to do on Christmas Day. But welcome in, Woj. Thanks for joining us. And we might as well start this thing off just at the thick of the drama with Harden and the Rockets. So as it pertains to their game tomorrow against the Blazers, where do the Rockets stand with Harden?
Well, James Harden is actually scheduled to play in that game. The Rockets are flying to Portland tonight. They'll do so with perhaps only really 8 players they can play in the game against the Blazers tomorrow. They do have an injured player who's on the roster, but Chris Clemens, who can't play, but a combination of contact tracing, positive coronavirus tests in Houston, is limiting their roster. Obviously, they couldn't play against Oklahoma City the other night, but Harden is expected to make his season debut along with the Rockets' debut against the Blazers, and then they play again Monday night in Denver.
Now, Woj, James Harden keeps adding more and more teams to where he would like to be traded, but they still have him for 2 seasons. How long do you think this standoff could continue?
I think it has a chance to continue into the foreseeable future. The Rockets know that to make a James Harden trade, they've got to get maximum value back in the trade market. They don't need to rush this process. I mean, obviously they do have him under contract for 2 more years. They don't want this cloud to hang over them. It is a difficult situation in Houston right now for them to function. But I think as an organization, they know that they can't do a bad deal. And right now, the deals that they see out there in the marketplace feel like they're not good enough. And I think they hope that those offers will improve. Listen, as teams get into the season and teams maybe they've overestimated the group they had, maybe they start to feel a little pressure to really dramatically improve their team. Offers improve in that way. But of course, there's other teams like let's say a Brooklyn who gets off to a great start, who likes the chemistry, likes the group they have, and maybe they become maybe a little more hesitant to get seriously or remain seriously in talks. But I think the Rockets know that they still have time on their side, but it's not a healthy environment right now in Houston, and they know the sooner they make a trade, the better. They just know they have to make the right one.
And we'll keep an eye on that for sure. Now, Adam Silver mentioned earlier this week there's possibility of the NBA expanding. Do you have any thoughts or what that would look like for the NBA's future?
Well, I think it's still not necessarily in the foreseeable future. I think it's still years away. Listen, for owners and for the league, there's a big financial benefit for a team to pay to come into the league. That could be as much as $4 or $5 billion. and that's shared among, that entrance fee is shared among the other owners, and especially with the revenue that's been lost during the pandemic.